We thought humans were weak, until one of them made 6 apex predators retreat without throwing a single punch. That was the day the Academy learned what Earth really evolves, psychological weapons disguised as smiles. I have been teaching at the Galactic Combat Academy for 17 cycles now, and I thought I had seen every flavor of violence the universe had to offer. My name is Ven Mora, combat instructor, 3rd generation Kravathi warrior, and apparently someone who still has a lot to learn about what truly makes a predator. The Academy sits on Tornax Prime, a moon specifically chosen because its gravity is punishing enough to break the weak and forge the strong. We do not coddle our cadets here. We do not hold their appendages and whisper sweet encouragements. This is where the Galactic Council sends the species who want their military forces to actually survive first contact. The mortality rate hovers around 12%, which administration considers acceptable. I consider it generous. Our current class reads like a nature documentary on the galaxy's most efficient killers. There is Krath, a Vrexian whose species evolved hunting in acid swamps where hesitation meant dissolution. His exoskeleton can shrug off plasma rounds, and I have watched him bite through titanium alloy during stress tests. Then we have the Throst twins, Mika and Vika, pack hunters from a frozen world where they learn to coordinate kills before they learn to speak. Their species has 6 eyes, 4 arms, and absolutely no concept of fair fighting. Zara comes from a high-gravity world where everything, and I mean everything, wants to eat everything else. Her people, the Korathi, developed retractable claws that can extend 8 inches and curved fangs that inject a paralytic venom. She moves like liquid death, and I have never seen her lose a sparring match. Not once. Then there is Rend. Poor, terrifying Rend. He is a Shakras, which means he stands 9 feet tall, has bone protrusions growing from his shoulders and forearms like natural armor, and his species' idea of courtship involves ritualized combat to unconsciousness. He broke 3 training dummies in his first week. Not damaged. Broke, as in we had to completely replace them. I could go on. We have 47 cadets in advanced combat training, and every single one of them comes from a species that clawed, bit, or ripped their way to the top of their respective food chains. Every single one of them has killed. Most of them enjoyed it. And then we have Marcus Webb. The human arrived 6 weeks ago, looking so laughably out of place that I genuinely thought administration had made a clerical error. He stands maybe 5'9", which is short by any predator standard. He weighs perhaps 170 pounds. And that is being charitable. No claws, no fangs, no exoskeleton, no venom glands, no natural armor plating. His skin looks like it would tear if you looked at it wrong, and his bones seem about as sturdy as dried vegetation. When he first walked into my training hall, Krath actually laughed. Not a polite chuckle. A full, booming laugh that echoed off the walls. Several other cadets joined in. I did not stop them. Honestly, I was wondering the same thing they were wondering. What was this soft pink creature doing in a facility designed to forge galactic warriors? The Academy has a reputation. You see, it is not just brutal. It is systematically, intentionally, philosophically brutal. We believe that combat training should hurt, should scar, should leave marks on the body and the mind. The theory goes that if you can survive training here, you can survive actual war. The statistics support this. Graduates of the Galactic Combat Academy have a survival rate in combat situations that is 400% higher than standard military training programs. But survival here requires more than just skill. It requires something the administration calls mental fortitude, and what I call being too stubborn to die. Every day brings new challenges designed to break cadets down and see what they are actually made of. The obstacle courses have live ammunition. The sparring sessions have minimal medical oversight. The survival exercises drop you in hostile terrain with nothing but your wits and whatever you can improvise. And then there is the gauntlet run.
Oh, the gauntlet run.
This is not official curriculum, you understand. This is pure cadet tradition, passed down through generations of violent youth who enjoy making newcomers prove themselves. Senior cadets, the ones who have survived at least 2 full cycles, get to test the new arrivals. They pick a target, usually someone who looks weak or out of place. And they make life difficult. Very difficult. Sometimes it is verbal, psychological warfare, testing mental resilience. Sometimes it is physical, surprise attacks in corridors, aggressive sparring, forcing the newcomer to fight multiple opponents. The instructors know about it. We pretend we do not. It is a useful filter. If you cannot handle the gauntlet, you definitely cannot handle actual combat. Marcus Webb had been avoiding the gauntlet for 6 weeks now. 6 whole weeks. That is practically unheard of. Most newcomers get targeted within days, but Marcus had been careful, quiet. He kept his head down, showed up for training, performed adequately if not spectacularly, and then disappeared back to his quarters. Smart survival strategy, honestly. But the senior cadets were getting impatient. I could see it in how they watched him during drills, the way they whispered when he passed. Predators circling, waiting for the right moment, and Marcus, bless his fragile little heart, seemed completely oblivious to the danger. Or so I thought. It happened on a Thursday. Well, the Tornax Prime equivalent of Thursday, which translates roughly to the day most cadets are exhausted, injured, and running on pure spite. Perfect time for an ambush. I was running inventory in the equipment storage hall when I heard them. 6 sets of footsteps, moving with that particular rhythm that screamed coordinated hunting behavior. I should have gone back to counting plasma rifles. I should have minded my own business. Instead, I found myself moving toward the sound, curiosity overriding common sense. The corridor outside the secondary training bay. That is where they had him cornered. Leading the pack was Torv, a Drexian who stood 7 feet tall with muscular bulk that looked like someone had carved him from solid granite and then forgotten to add a neck. His species evolved on a world where the dominant predators hunted by literally crushing their prey against rock faces. Torv had shoulders wider than most species are tall, and his idea of a handshake had hospitalized 3 cadets during orientation. He had these ridge-like bone structures running across his skull and down his spine. Natural battering rams. In the combat rankings he sat comfortably in 3rd place, and the only reason he was not higher is because he lacked imagination. Pure, blunt, force. To his left prowled Senna, and she made my scales itch just looking at her. Feline species from Kalos the Fifth, where everything moved in the dark and struck without warning. Her fur had these bioluminescent patterns that could shift and change, perfect camouflage or perfect distraction, depending on her mood. Retractable claws, naturally, each one capable of opening up armor plating like you would peel fruit. But the truly terrifying part, she was patient. I had watched her stalk a target for 3 full days during survival training, never rushing, never revealing herself, just waiting for the perfect moment. When she finally struck, the fight lasted 4 seconds. Beside her stood Greaves and Haxon, a bonded pair of Yulthari. Their species did not believe in individual combat. They did not even have a word for it in their language. Everything was pack tactics, coordinated strikes, overwhelming force through synchronized violence. Greaves specialized in grappling, his forearms designed to grab and hold while his partner did the actual killing. Haxon had these crystalline growths along his forearms that were sharper than any blade I had ever seen. They fought like a single organism with 8 limbs, and trying to separate them in combat was like trying to pull apart water. The 5th member made me actually consider intervening. Regulations be damned. Vex was a Korvathi, which meant he came from a species that literally breathed toxic gas and considered chemical warfare a baseline survival skill. He could not help it really, his biology just worked that way, but in an enclosed corridor, he could render the air unbreathable in about 90 seconds. Administration had given him special clearance because his combat applications were too valuable to ignore, but they made him wear suppressant filters during training. I noticed he had removed his filter. That was not a good sign. And finally, hanging back with the confident air of someone who did not need to be in front because everyone else would do the work for him, there was Niall, slender, almost delicate-looking by predator standards, which should have been a warning sign all by itself. His species, the Zenfari, had evolved as ambush hunters in dense jungles where size was a disadvantage. They developed instead something far more insidious: neural disruptors, psychic interference. He could not read minds, exactly, but he could sense intent, anticipate movements, and project enough mental static to make opponents hesitate at critical moments. In a fair fight, he was dangerous. In an ambush situation, he was practically unbeatable. 6 apex predators. 6 different hunting styles. 6 reasons why Marcus Webb should have been running for his life. Except he was not running. Marcus stood in the center of their closing circle, training bag still slung over one shoulder, looking for all the world like someone waiting for public transportation. Not tense, not preparing to fight or flee. Just standing there, weight balanced casually on both feet, breathing steady and even. I felt my inner eyelids flicker with confusion. This was wrong. Prey animals ran or fought. They showed fear responses, elevated heart rate, rapid breathing, defensive posturing, something. But Marcus just stood there, watching them close in with the same expression he wore during lectures on tactical theory, mildly interested, slightly bored even. Torby spoke first. his voice like gravel grinding in a processing plant. "You have been avoiding us, human. We thought perhaps you did not understand Academy tradition. Let us educate you." The circle tightened. I could see Senna's claws extending, just slightly. Vex's breathing changed, becoming deeper, more deliberate, pumping more of his species' toxic exhalations into the enclosed space. Greaves and Haxon shifted positions, creating overlapping fields of attack. Niall's eyes had that distant look that meant he was already in Marcus's head, reading his fear, preparing to exploit it. This was the moment. This was where I should step in. Instructor authorities, stop this before it became a medical incident. My mouth opened to bark the command. And then Marcus smiled. Not a nervous smile. Not a plea for mercy or an attempt to diffuse tension through friendliness. This was something else entirely, something that made my combat instructor instincts, honed over 17 cycles of teaching killers how to kill better, suddenly scream at me that I had misunderstood something fundamental about the situation. His lips pulled back, showing those flat herbivore teeth that seemed so pathetically inadequate. But the smile did not reach his eyes. Those eyes had gone very still, very focused, tracking each predator with the kind of attention I usually only saw in cadets calculating kill trajectories. And there was something in that expression, something in the way the muscles in his jaw tightened and his shoulders dropped half an inch into what I suddenly recognized as a combat stance disguised as relaxation. Turve hesitated, just for a second, just long enough for doubt to flicker across his heavy features. Senna's bioluminescent pattern stuttered, confusion disrupting her camouflage. The Yulthari pair exchanged a glance, their perfect synchronization breaking. And in that crystallized moment of confusion, hanging in the recycled air of a corridor on a training moon light years from Earth, I finally understood something terrifying about humans. That smile was not a peace offering. It was a threat display. The smile widened. I had studied human facial expressions, of course. Part of my job as an instructor requires understanding the emotional states of all species under my supervision. Humans smile when happy, when greeting friends, when trying to appear non-threatening. Basic social bonding behavior. Harmless. Except this smile was not harmless, and every predator in that corridor knew it on an instinctive level that bypassed rational thought entirely. Marcus's breathing had not changed, still steady, still controlled, but something about his posture had shifted in ways so subtle I almost missed them. His weight distribution moved forward, just fractionally onto the balls of his feet. His hands, which had been hanging loose at his sides, had curled slightly, not into fists, but into something more flexible, more ready. His head tilted down maybe half an inch, protecting his throat while keeping his eyes locked on Tor. And that smile, those teeth, that seemed so inadequate for a predator, were now on full display, and combined with the absolute stillness in his eyes, the effect was deeply, profoundly wrong. Torvar's ridge structures flattened against his skull, a defensive reflex. I had never seen him do that before, not even when facing down Zara during championship matches. His massive hands, which moments ago had been flexing in anticipation of violence, had gone very still. "Problem?" Marcus asked, and his voice carried none of the fear that should have been there. It was conversational, friendly even. The kind of tone you used when asking someone if they needed directions, completely disconnected from the reality of 6 predators surrounding him in an isolated corridor. That disconnection was what broke Senna first. Her species had survived for millennia by reading threat displays, by understanding when to strike and when to fade back into the shadows. Every instinct she possessed was apparently screaming at her that something was catastrophically wrong with this picture. The human was not afraid. The human should be afraid. Prey was supposed to be afraid. Her bioluminescent patterns flashed bright orange, the Kilosi distress signal, and she took one step backward. I have spent my entire adult life studying combat psychology. I know what happens when pack dynamics shift. When one member shows weakness, shows doubt, it cascades. The collective confidence that made 6 predators into a unified threat began crumbling like a sand sculpture in a rainstorm. Vex stopped his deep breathing. His toxic exhalations, which should have been making Marcus dizzy by now, seemed pointless against someone who was not reacting appropriately to any stimuli. The Yulthari pair, Greaves and Haxon, broke their synchronized stance, each suddenly more concerned with having an escape route than maintaining attack formation. Niall, hanging back with his psychic interference abilities, had gone pale, well paler than his species normally was, and I suddenly understood why. He was not sensing fear from Marcus. He was not sensing hesitation or doubt or any of the emotional vulnerabilities he normally exploited. Whatever he was reading from the human had apparently convinced him that being in this corridor was a terrible idea. Marcus took one step forward. Just one. A casual step, like he was moving to get a better view of something mildly interesting. But 6 predators reacted like he had lunged at them. Torve actually flinched, his massive frame jerking backward. Senna's claws retracted completely, defensive body language overriding hunting instincts. "We were just leaving," Niall said quickly, his voice tight with an emotion I had never heard from him before. Fear, actual genuine fear. And they did leave. 6 apex predators, 6 of the most dangerous cadets in the academy turned and walked away from a single unarmed human who had done nothing more threatening than smile at them. Marcus watched them go, that same expression on his face, until they disappeared around the corner. Then, and only then, did the smile fade. His posture relaxed back into that casual, slightly bored stance. He adjusted his training bag on his shoulder and turned to continue down the corridor. He saw me standing there observing from the equipment storage entrance. Our eyes met. He nodded once, a simple gesture of acknowledgement, and kept walking. I stood there for a full 3 minutes trying to process what I had just witnessed, trying to understand how a species with no natural weapons, no size advantage, no biological enhancements, had just dominated an encounter through nothing more than body language and a facial expression. I found Marcus in the observation deck 2 hours later, watching Tornax Prime's twin suns set over the training grounds. He did not seem surprised when I sat down beside him, probably heard me coming. Humans have decent hearing, I had learned, not exceptional but adequate. "That was an interesting display in the corridor," I said, keeping my tone neutral. "Instructors do not take sides in cadet disputes. Officially." Marcus shrugged, still watching the sunset. "They were not really going to do anything." "How could you possibly know that?" He glanced at me, and there was something almost amused in his expression. "Because if they were serious they would not have surrounded me in a corridor. Too confined, limits their mobility, negates their numbers advantage. They were posturing, testing boundaries." I just tested back. I let that sink in for a moment. "Your species does not have many natural weapons. No claws, no venom, no armor plating. Yet you face down 6 apex predators without hesitation. Explain that to me." Marcus was quiet for a long moment, considering his words. "You know what is funny about Earth? We are not supposed to be alive. By any reasonable metric, humans should have gone extinct about 2 million years ago. I do not understand. Earth is a nightmare world, Instructor Mora. And I mean that literally. It has more megafauna, more apex predators per square kilometer than any other inhabited world in the known galaxy. We have bears that weigh 1,500 pounds and can run 30 miles per hour. We have cats, big cats, that can drag prey twice their body weight up trees. We have crocodilians that have remained essentially unchanged for 200 million years because they are already perfect killing machines." He leaned back, warming to his subject. "We have sharks. We have wolves. We have hippopotamuses that kill more humans per year than any other large animal despite being herbivores. We have snakes with venom that can kill you in minutes. We have spiders, insects, plants, fish. Everything on our world either wants to eat us, poison us, or trample us into paste. Then how did you survive?" "We cheated," Marcus said simply. "We could not outrun the predators, so we outlasted them. Humans are endurance hunters. Instructor, we do not sprint. We jog. We maintain a steady pace for hours, days if necessary, and we follow our prey until it collapses from exhaustion. There are records of human hunters tracking animals for 26 hours straight, walking, just walking until the animal physically could not run anymore." I felt my secondary eyelids flutter. "That seems inefficient." "It is terrifying," Marcus corrected. "Imagine being an antelope. You are fast, you are agile, you escape the weird hairless ape easily, but then you look back and it is still coming. Always coming, never stopping. You rest, you eat, you try to lose it, but hours later, there it is again, still coming, still tracking, inevitable." The way he said that last word made my scales prickle. "We hunted mammoths to extinction," he continued. "Massive creatures, 12 feet tall, 6-ton bodies, huge tusks designed to gore predators. We killed them with pointed sticks and patience. Saber-toothed cats, gone. Giant ground sloths, gone. Dire wolves, gone. We did not outfight them, we outlasted them. We used tools, worked in groups, and refused to stop until they were dead or we were." "This still does not explain the corridor." Marcus smiled again. And now that I knew what to look for, I could see the threat display for what it was. Humans developed psychological warfare before we developed agriculture. Instructor, we learned very early that sometimes you do not need to fight. You just need to convince the other predator that fighting you is not worth the cost. The smile. The smile, he agreed. On Earth, when a primate shows its teeth, it is usually a threat, but humans weaponized it. We use the same facial expression for joy and for aggression. It confuses other species, makes us unpredictable, and unpredictable predators are dangerous predators. So you were threatening them. I was informing them, Marcus corrected gently, that I understood what was happening, that I was not afraid, and that if they chose to escalate I would hurt at least 2 or 3 of them before they took me down. Pack hunters rely on cost-benefit analysis. If the prey is going to injure multiple pack members, the hunt is not worth it. Better to find easier targets. I processed this, running through everything I thought I knew about humans and realizing how much I had missed. Your species should not work. You are too fragile, too slow, too weak. Individually, sure, Marcus agreed, but we do not fight individually. We fight smart. We use tools. We plan. We adapt. And most importantly, we do not quit. Ever. Earth taught us that survival is not about being the strongest or the fastest. It is about being too stubborn to die and smart enough to make the other guy quit first. The observation deck door hissed open. 3 cadets walked in, saw Marcus, and immediately turned around and left. Word had spread fast. By morning everyone in the academy would know what happened in that corridor. The human who smiled at predators and made them run. They are going to avoid you now, I said. For a while, Marcus agreed. Until they realize I am not actually that dangerous in a straight fight. Then they will adjust their approach, test me differently. That is fine. Keeps things interesting. You think this is interesting? He looked at me with those unsettling forward-facing eyes, the mark of a persistence hunter. Instructor Mora, I voluntarily came to a training facility designed to break apex predators. Of course I think this is interesting. 3 months have passed since the corridor incident, and I find myself completely reassessing what I thought I knew about predator hierarchies. Marcus Webb did not become popular at the academy. Popularity was never the goal, but something far more interesting happened. He became respected. The cadets stopped seeing him as prey and started seeing him as what he actually was. A different kind of predator, the kind that did not advertise, did not posture, just quietly calculated the most efficient way to achieve objectives. Torv approached him first, about 2 weeks after their confrontation. I watched from across the training bay as the massive Drexian asked Marcus to demonstrate the joint lock technique he had used during sparring. No apology, no acknowledgement of their previous encounter, just a straightforward request for knowledge. Marcus showed him, explaining the biomechanics involved, where to apply pressure, how to compensate for size differences. Within a week, they were regular training partners. Senna took longer. Her species does not forgive easily, and being outmaneuvered by someone she had underestimated clearly bothered her. But during a tactical exercise in the 4th week, Marcus called out a trap she had missed, probably saved her from a simulation failure. She started sitting near him during meal periods after that. Not with him, exactly, just in proximity, testing the waters. The Yulthari pair, Greaves and Haxon, started asking his opinion on pack coordination tactics. Vex invited him to a cultural exchange event. Even Niall, who I suspect was genuinely traumatized by whatever he sensed in Marcus's head that day, began nodding acknowledgments when they passed in corridors. The shift was not submission. Marcus did not dominate them through force or fear. Instead, he earned something far more valuable in a predator hierarchy. He earned the recognition that he belonged here, that his different approach to combat and survival was not weakness but adaptation. I watched him leading a mixed-species tactical team last week during war games. Torber fighted the muscles, Senna ran reconnaissance, the Yulthari twins executed flanking maneuvers, and Marcus coordinated everything from the center, turning 6 individual predators into a single efficient weapon. They won in 17 minutes. The previous record was 43. What makes humans dangerous, I have finally realized, is not what they have. It is what they do not need. They do not need claws because they invented knives. They do not need venom because they invented medicine and poison both. They do not need armor plating because they build actual armor. Every biological advantage the rest of us evolved over millions of years, humans just engineered a solution for in a few thousand. But more than that, they have something most predator species lack: flexibility. We evolved for specific environments, specific prey, specific survival strategies. Humans evolved for everything. They can live in frozen wastelands and burning deserts. They can eat almost anything organic. They can survive injuries that would kill most species. They are adaptable in ways that terrify me when I actually think about it. The Galactic Council was right to accept humans into the Academy, but for the wrong reasons. They thought humans needed to learn how to be warriors. What they actually needed was for the rest of us to learn what human warriors look like before we encountered them as enemies. Marcus will graduate top of his class. I have no doubt about that now. Not because he is the strongest or the fastest or the most naturally gifted, but because he understands something the others are still learning. Combat is not about looking dangerous. It is about being effective. Most species advertise their threat level. Bright colors, aggressive displays, obvious weapons. They want you to know they are dangerous so you will back down without a fight. Humans do the opposite. They look harmless right up until the moment they need to not be, and by then it is usually too late to do anything about it. I think about that smile sometimes. That simple facial expression that broke a pack of apex predators without a single blow being thrown. It was not magic. It was not some special human ability. It was just communication, a clear, unmistakable message delivered in a language every predator understands. I am not prey. And if you treat me like prey, you will regret it. The galaxy has 547 recognized predator species in the Galactic Council. We have claws and fangs and venom and armor and size and strength. We have evolved for millions of years to be efficient killers. And then there are humans who looked at a universe full of monsters and said, sure, that seems fair, and proceeded to outlast everything their nightmare world threw at them, through sheer stubbornness and tactical thinking. I am glad they are allies. I would hate to fight them as enemies.